Hi, Tiffany. Welcome to the show. I'd like to start off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to and how you got to where you are today.
All right. Gosh, what a loaded question, right? Currently, I have been really leaning into what my life's mission has pulled me to as far as helping people find their own voice, helping people become their own self advocates, and really the power from within, breaking down those self limiting beliefs. And I did that from diving into that work myself, right? We all have patterns in life that we recognize and everything. And from breaking my own patterns and seeing the life that I've been able to create for myself, my true version of freedom, I'm like, if I can do this, anybody can do this. And so it's kind of become my life's mission to be able to do that. And then I've become really in line with my business now. My business partner started our coaching group and we ran into each other a while ago. And it's been a really incredible mission.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing. So you mentioned that there's something that you went through yourself. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, earlier this year in 2025, I actually battled and survived breast cancer. And that was, I mean, we're all going to have our defining moments in life, right? And that was actually just one of a few of mine. It just happens to be the latest and biggest one for me. But I don't define and I don't connect my ability to survive this to luck. I really am truly a big believer in everything that I worked to build up until that point. Really like closed the margin of error for where I got to like either survive or didn't survive. And it truly, like, I mean, it saved my life to be able to be right here. But it was the habits in place and my self advocacy that I put in place to really be able to push and get the answers I needed. I was told several times that I was fine. And so in that journey of knowing, like feeling this inner hunch of I'm not fine, I know something's going on, to being able to have the courage to push back and really peel back what's going on and push for more answers and then have that save my life. I mean, that is like brick by brick gives you the courage and builds that confidence in your own power and in your own voice.
Well, thanks for sharing such a personal experience. So
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
would you say you've had some experiences and your journey leading up to that contributed to your success and overcoming that biggest obstacle that you've had, in
Yeah.
your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're sitting in bed and you're recovering from such a drastic surgery like a double mastectomy, you have a lot of time to reflect. You have a lot of time to just contemplate what's next? How did I get here? What am I supposed to learn from that? And that was really the big question that I was walking out of the situation like that was like, not why me, but like, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Because I know that I've been put in this situation to help others. And, how can I be an advocate for others? But, to your point of there's been other scenarios to lead into that. I have had, as I sat there and I reflected on like, how did I feel so strong to be able to push back against professionals that I'm supposed to trust their opinion? And I'm supposed to trust that what they tell me is the correct answer. But then I'm sitting here going, I don't think it is. And how do I have the courage to do that? And it really was like, for me, it's been 15 years of coming into alignment with how I feel internally and what is like my true compass, what's my true north, what's real and right in my value system, and breaking free of, I was raised in a really dominant religion, and there are things that I'm so grateful that I've taken away from that. I'm no longer part of that religion. However, just like I said, there was a framework instilled in me and there were values with my self and how I carry myself and how I am raising my baby. And, there's all these values that you take away from that. But I needed to find what was in alignment for me. That was just like the people I was surrounding myself with. Was I surrounding myself with people that were in alignment? Was I doing habits every day that wanted to serve how I wanted to stay in alignment with what was coming next for me? And so really it wasn't like this overnight success, or it wasn't this just like one recovery from breast cancer that gave me and put me in this alignment. It wasn't this big aha for me, but really it was like 15 years of laying brick by brick and keeping going when, when no one's watching and you're doing the work, that's when you're doing the true alignment. And that's when it's sustainable for you to then come into a really difficult scenario, like someone telling you you're fine. And then you being like, I don't think I am, to have the courage to say, I don't think I am.
Yeah, well, I definitely would love to dive deeper in to what alignment means for you, or maybe for people in general,
Mhm.
and what kind of habits are conducive to having that sort of alignment. But before we go there, is the Limitless Society, that's something that came afterwards, after your victory. Is that correct? Can you tell us
It's
a little bit
not
about that?
actually, and that's what was so incredible. Limitless Society, it was actually founded by my business partner, Keaton Hoskins, and he founded the society, and his mission to do that was very similar to mine as far as, like, he knew the life that he was living and the barriers that he had broken down, the habits that he had broken down, and then created a dream life. He has created every aspect of his version of freedom and dream. He's created that. And so also felt a big responsibility. If I can do this, I've got to teach others. So there's a couple of us that are in this partnership that it is our mission to do that, and to be able to help people really become whole. It's not just a personal coaching group. It's not just a business coaching group, but to really have success in one area or the other, we really need to look at the person as a whole. And so, yeah, Limitless came about before this, and that's what was honestly so special is I had been putting so much work into Limitless and what we're growing as our company, that then when I was faced with such a trying time and such a difficult scenario, I had already put my bricks in a row. They were ready to be like, "Oh, this is what I've been practicing for the last year." And that's no coincidence to me. I really think that God was making some moves and he was like, "We're going to make it so you are going to be the strongest in every aspect, emotionally, physically, spiritually, that when this comes, you're going to come head to head with this. You're going to be ready because of what you've taught and what you practice every day."
Can you tell us a little bit about what are those things you've taught and you've been practicing?
I mentor people around are skill set, mindset, and habits. The skill set, anybody can learn a skill set. That's the joy of like how teaching someone entrepreneurship and teaching someone that aspect. Anybody can learn it. It's beautiful, right? Mindset and habits, I believe, are the two harder ones to help people come in line with. And again, it's like it's coming into alignment with, it's not about what we're doing today. It's what does your future self, what do you envision for that future self? And it's not just goals, right? But like your future self as a whole, as I mentioned. And so what we double down on those three areas. But within that, especially when it comes to habits and mindset, you've got your 5 pillars of health. Right. So you've got your mental health, you've got your spiritual health, emotional, physical, financial. You've got all of these pillars that you can check in with yourself. And my job as a coach is to really help someone like zoom out and look at the 5,000-foot view. Let's look at what feels broken right now and where we really need to put some good infrastructure in place. Infrastructure is like my bread and butter. The details and the systems and process is really where I help people create sustainable transformation and not just like some fixes or a one-time goal accomplishment, right? And so again, it's those pillars of really looking at like, we can't have, if your emotional health is in the toilet, your financial health is going to follow. If your spiritual health is not doing well, I mean, it's a really delicate dance between all of them that it gives you a great, um, it gives you like a great canvas to be able to say, okay, I can't have one without the other. So how am I going to feed all of these? And it really does just kind of start that flywheel effect.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I agree with you. And I think about a similar framework as well in my life. I would say I try to apply. I have to ask, what exactly is spiritual health? Like,
Mm,
I think I understand emotional health, but What's spiritual health?
I mean, spiritual health is going to look different and sound different for every single person, right? But spiritual health overall is what your relationship with something greater than yourself. And even if it's something that you don't believe in, something bigger or greater than yourself, whether it be God or Buddha or whatever your label is, right? If that is something that you don't believe in, that's totally fine, but you've got to be firm in that belief. You need to have done the work to say, it's actually not something I believe in, and I'm okay with that. I'm whole with that. And that avoids any type of gaps that you could be like, is there a God? Or is this happening? It really gives you like a solid foundation to be able to sit on. For me, I have a very firm belief in God, and I had to redefine what that looked like for myself. I had grown up with this version of who this God was and how he looked at me and how he judged me. And I really redefined that over the last 15, 20 years. And the God that I have come to love and know loves me unconditionally. Like it is such a gift, but I had to put in the work to that. There was no one else that was going to be able to define that to me because I needed to do the work of like truly what was right and real to my core. So when it comes to spiritual belief, again, it's like everybody's going to feel something different. When I'm trail running in the mountains, there is nothing more spiritual feeling than being like one with the earth and nature and just admiring what's around me, right? For me, it's not having to sit in a room or, do certain practices. And that looks different for everybody. And it's beautiful, but it really is acknowledging something bigger than yourself. And it's an interesting conversation when you go into to a conversation like that with someone that doesn't believe in that. It's interesting to hear their viewpoint. How'd they get there? How do they like really feel like that? And we can all learn from one another. And I think that that's a beautiful place to be in. But again, it looks different for everybody, just like freedom looks different for everybody.
Okay. All right. Thanks for elaborating on that.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense. So, but going back, you were talking about looking at the structure, everyone's structure and the five pillars, and
Mhm.
evaluating where an individual is health wise according to those five pillars, and then and what happens next?
So, when we're talking about success, generally like when people come to me and they're like, I want to start mentoring with you or I want to join Limitless and things like that, they're coming for the yearning for growth. Right. And with growth, we get uncomfortable. And that's when, again, like I was saying, like I come and help look at someone as a whole. When they come to me, they have a very specific, like, I want to make this much money or I want to change this aspect of my life. They generally have like one thing in mind. And for me, it's helping them really unpack that and see the bigger picture. Right. And I've mentioned that like too often we're having people come in, to us and they're like, I want to hit six figures. I want to hit seven figures. But how often does that happen when people then in the process of striving for that lose themselves? They lose their health or they lose their relationships in the process, right? And when we're building a solid foundation between mindset and your habits and your infrastructures and everything, your communication, aligning that with your purpose, that's when you can scale yourself as a whole without shrinking yourself. Does that make sense kind
Yeah,
of? But
that does make sense because I know that when you fixate on a goal and you're striving for it, or at least
Mhm.
I do this, I tend to neglect other parts of my life and
Absolutely.
well-being. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. The Limitless Society went is now a global
Mhm.
organization. Like
Mhm.
how did that happen? And can you tell us about that?
We started building this. We were looking at this from we want to help people with sustainable growth. We don't want to just have someone come to me and say, "I want to hit six figures," and then I help them do that and send them on their way, right? It's not a well-rounded accomplishment in my eyes, right? But if we can really help people walk away and they've got sustainable habits that yes, we hit the six figures or the seven figures in the meantime, that's incredible. But if we're helping them grow as the whole in the meantime, then that's where we're really hitting the mark as far as what our mission is in Limitless. And by doing that, we've really had to focus on like, what does our culture look like within that? The network in Limitless is one of the most special parts. The people that, you hear the phrase like, there's something powerful about being in the right room. When you're in a room with really small fish and everybody's keeping everybody very small, there's not a lot of growth happening around you, right? But when you're looking at like, what do I want my future self to look like? And what does that look like? Who do I need to become to step into that role? Who you're surrounding yourself with really makes a big difference. And so if you're surrounding yourself by a powerful network and powerful coaches that all have that ability to help pull you up, your ability to, and your focus changes, what you're attracting changes, what you're noticing changes. There's a lot of different change that happens with that. And that's how we've really been able to bring in the right people, create the right culture that, again, it's like, it's creating that sustainable growth for everybody, but we've done that from the foundation up. And so that's really where, when we're emphasizing, both on like personal and professional growth, you get your internal world in order and then the external results follow. And when you feel that, and you do within our community, that's when, everybody, it's just like this family that you kind of come to say.
Different clients that you work with, they have a forum to interact with each other. Is that they do?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We have our own private forum held on a platform that it's like any social media. Like if you opened up your Instagram, we have that within Limitless Society. So we have our own way of keeping in touch with each other, helping people throw out like, this is what I'm working on right now, or this is what I'm struggling with. This was a win, sharing all and in between. And the chances are, I mean, we've got a couple thousand members in there. And so the chances of like, if I'm sharing a struggle, if I'm struggling this, John's probably struggling with this too. And the power and connection. And then again, like creative problem solving all together. It's pretty neat.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah.
like a pretty unique concept. I haven't heard of
Yeah,
that. And it's
we
like,
have group coaching calls together too that we all come together a few times a week, and there's a lot of connection. There's a lot of connection and collaboration. It is not a community of competition. If that's what people are coming in for, they're quickly seeing that they're not in there for the right reason.
okay. And what, I mean, do you discuss the five pillars then in the group coaching calls? And I mean, is that what goes
Yep.
on there?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of emphasis in personal and business development. So those are really like the two arms of our community. And so we've got certain people that are in there that are like, I'm in a 9 to 5 right now. I want to step outside of that and I want to become, my own boss. I want to build my own company. And that's in that entrepreneur space. And we really have a good focus on that. But like I said, with that, I can teach you how to acquire a business. I can show you the framework of how to go out and identify that, get your deal, take over the company and everything, or even have your own startup. But if your internal life is a mess, then your business is going to soon be a mess. And so we really we blend them all the time, talking about you really can't have you've got to have the strength in all five of them. And so we have different coaches that are able to emphasize on different areas of strength and pull from their own experiences and help others learn from what they've gone through and then be resources to them. So we've got about like 10 different coaches in there emphasizing in all of the different pillars that we've talked about, and it's pretty special.
Okay, so that, I mean, that sounds very interesting. It's the blend of personal and business coaching. So what kind of goals do people come to you with? Like, what are they? What's the primary driver for them to say, Tiffany, I want to be part of the Limitless Society? What pushes them there?
So that is it's a really cool spot to be in as a coach because we have so many different people in our community. And with that comes very different goals and everything. But the very common denominator in that is someone is coming to me ready for a change. And when you are willing to trade your comfort for clarity, it's not an easy process by any means. But I would really say that that's the common denominator of everybody is they're seeing something, they're seeing these coaches talk about the way that they've been able to really unpack this life full of freedom. And again, like I've said, like freedom, that's one of the very first questions that I ask is like, what does freedom look like for you? And when someone defines that, every single person's definition is very, very different. but the way we get there is all very, very similar. It's building those sustainable habits and making the it's not the habits that look frilly and that are fun and everything, but it's really like putting in the work. But that's where it really it's between people who come in and want to stay comfortable. Like if they say, "Oh, I want this change," but then they're not willing to put in the work. That's different differentiator, excuse me, between the ones like who win when someone makes an excuse when life gets messy. They're gonna be back at square one very, very quickly. But the ones that keep grinding and keep putting in the work, especially when life gets messy, and then you make adjustments when life gets messy, those are the ones that really make the change. But I would say really the common denominator is people coming in ready to make a change, whether it's business or personal. They're feeling the pull for something more.
Okay, so are they feeling stuck in their life?
Yeah.
Is that why they're coming to you,
Yeah,
or
a
do
lot of
they?
people stuck, and like I said, we teach a lot of people with, like, how to be entrepreneurs also. So you do have a lot of people that are like, "I'm in a 9 to 5, I have no idea how to run a business." I mean, myself, I was in corporate America for 15 years before I stepped into entrepreneurship, and the minute that I stepped into entrepreneurship, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have so much to learn." I took so much from corporate America, that was great, and I value a lot of the things that I pulled from that, but there's so much that without a mentor or a group to help support you, you can definitely achieve it, but you get such faster results when you have a mentor behind you. I mean, it's just like think of lighting a fire, right? Like with some kindling and stuff, like you can get things going, but if you pour gas on that fire, if you have like a great starter, your fire is going to erupt and going to grow so much faster. And that's the exact same thing with mentorship or a group community like we're talking about. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably like a 50-50 split depending on who wants to come in to learn how to acquire or grow a business versus who wants to come in on the personal development side. But they usually end up crossing paths at some point because those who come in for personal development are then like, wait a minute, I can create my own freedom. And when they feel that power building in themselves, then they can step over into that arena versus the people that are coming in wanting to do the business, but then there's some personal things a mess. We got to guide them over there quickly. So it true.
So people come in from a personal development point. People come in wanting to achieve more personal development, come away with their own business sometimes
Yeah,
because the goal is
occasionally. I
freedom, and
mean,
that's what
mhm.
your own business grants you.
And it totally depends. Like, I mean, some people are set in their careers and they're in that 9 to 5 life and they're totally fine with it. But there's other people that, they look at that and then they see this group that they're talking to and they start collaborating with other members and they're like, wait a second, you can go to the grocery store in the middle of the day with your kid. You don't have to put him in daycare and you get to create that and dictate your own time. I want that. And so it just kind of starts like this ripple effect of like, we really don't have to cap ourselves at anything. If you want it, you can achieve it. It's just what kind of work do you want to put in?
Okay, and so when people that come to you that feel stuck, what's like the first mindset shift that they have to get through to make a move in the right direction?
So I've mentioned that one of my first questions is like, what does your true freedom look like? And when someone describes that to me and they're able to say like, well, I really want to be able to have more time with my family. Time is the very biggest thing that people come back to me and they're like, I don't have enough time. We can definitely create time by shifting certain things that we're wasting time on, or, it's very possible to create the time. But back to one of
Can
my
you
first
can you
like
tell me how to create more time? I think I want to create more time. That's like I want that right now, you know?
So if we wanted to create more time in your day, the first thing I would say is like, what does your calendar look like? Are you respecting every minute of the day? And I'm not just talking about your waking hours. You have 24 hours in your day. And if you are truly mapping out what those 24 hours look like, you will find more time in your day than you realize. So for example, one of the guys that I mentor, we sat down and did this and we were looking at like, okay, we broke it down minute by minute in his day. And when we got to the bottom of it, there were 6 hours in his day that we unlocked for him just by rearranging how and when he was plugging himself into what did he need to be plugging himself into work? And he owns his own business. So we did another analysis of like, what tasks is he doing that are not the tasks that a business owner should be doing? Are there tasks that he's doing that maybe are the $20 an hour tasks that an admin should be doing, But really like taking an audit of how you're spending
Right.
your time. It's a humbling activity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I came across that, and I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Martell and buy
Mhm.
back your time. So he goes through
Yeah.
that. You have to audit your calendar, you have to audit your time, and then delegate everything that is like under a certain amount,
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a
But
it's a really foreign, like, exercise for people to first start because 'cause they're like, "What do you mean you want me to, like, tell you every" I'm like, "When do you wake up? What is the first thing you do? What do you" I mean, walking through, like, minute by minute, and people are like, "What are we doing?" But then when you look at the time frame of that and you're like, "So 6 hours of that, we could rearrange and plug into some other pieces," and it's like, "My gosh, I do have more time." And that's an exciting feeling, it's an empowering feeling, there's so much more time than we realize. It also opens your eyes to, like, what are we wasting our time on?
that's a big one
A noisy
to
world,
keep
there's a lot of things
yourself
we can do.
um, noisy and distracting. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, what is it that excites you about sort of the next generation of entrepreneurs and clients and people
Mm.
that you work with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love the challenge that our younger generation is like pushing back, right? And I feel like our younger generation now, and I do think it can be, when I'm about to describe this, it can kind of sound like I've heard a lot of our older generation describe our younger generation as like entitled and empowered, and they want everything now and they want instant gratification, right? But I do feel like there is a new development that's happening with our new generation of looking at how things used to be done and looking at like the traditional ways of making money or living their lives or spending their time. And they're challenging back and saying, but why? Why do we need to do it like that if I can do it more efficiently like this? Or if I can recreate it with some of the new pieces doing this. So I love the new challenge and I love the new development in their minds about like they're dreaming and it's not just about income. I feel like they're really looking at like they want some impact. Um I think that there can be a pretty big gap with social media and all of these things that make us feel disconnected in the world. I think that there's going to be an interesting shift of like people are going to, on our younger generation, especially, I hope, anyways, that they will look at that and say, we still need connection. How can we impact? And then use these powerful tools like social media to make the impact at waves, and do it for the masses instead. And yeah, I think that entrepreneurship as a whole, we're gonna see a big boom with that, with everybody that is all of the baby boomers that are retiring and the new generation figuring out I can buy that business and then I can make it run faster and more efficient and optimize everything. It's gonna be an interesting thing. Education
Yeah,
is changing and I
I
think it's
agree. A lot of things are changing. Technology is really making possible a lot of things, just like you said, education, right? I mean, you can
yeah.
learn anything now with a click of a mouse. And
Yes.
whereas even 20 years ago, like wasn't there. As a partner in the business, what are some of the challenges that you've gone through or currently going through as far as running the business, growing the business?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mentioned that infrastructure is like my bread and butter. So when systems are running right, that's when things are feeling like they're in harmony in my world, right? But if there is disruption with that, then that's when it's my responsibility to go back and look at like, okay, why is this not running or feeling like it needs to be? Culture, I mentioned, is something that is huge in a community like ours too, especially where there's an open forum where people get to use their own voices and they get to share whatever they want. There are people that are really, really struggling in our group, and I'm really grateful that they're here. And then there's other people that are on top of the world. We have so many different walks of life in there that creating a sound culture for everybody can be both a very difficult thing while being easy to, as long as there's the right systems and framework in place. Boundaries are very healthy, and, and creating framework for people to stay within are very healthy, while being able to encourage people to, be their own authentic self. But, with those systems and process and the technology that we're talking about, we're stepping into a very technological driven world. AI is a huge thing that is can be really beautiful in the workspace, and, in everything that we're doing. And it's a delicate dance of, like, what am I going to automate versus what am I going to keep authentic? I believe that there can be a blend of both, and I've done that within our company, of automating what truly can, but we're never gonna remove the person out of it?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I think those are, like, my biggest challenges of, like, keeping up with the technology, but still making sure that people feel like we're all here together. There's a heartbeat in our community, right? It's not just this, we're there to connect. Like I said at the very beginning, like, the connection and the collaboration are the 2 best pieces of our community.
Absolutely. Those are the best pieces of society in general. So I'm happy to hear that, your
Yeah.
community is one that fosters that as well, and
Yeah.
obviously encourages growth. So thank you for coming on the show today, Tiffany, and telling us about, what you're doing. It sounds really great. If someone
Thank
is interested, where can they contact you? Where can they get more information?
Yeah, best place to contact me is over on Instagram. And of course, I'm going to throw a little swing in the spelling of my name. So Tiffany is with an IE, not a Y, but it's just my first and last name, Tiffany.Janowitz. And I'm over on Instagram. That's the best place to connect with me. I'm over there all the time, and that's connected right within Limitless Society, or over on our website. It's just limitlesssociety.com. But I love the connection piece of it. I love helping people unlock what their true potential can be, because that's often something that's just too overlooked when someone is stepping into that. I mean, it's just like when we look in the mirror and we're seeing, like, the same thing every day, we don't see big change. But when you have someone new and they're really helping unpack that for you and zoom out on that and help you just shift your sales slightly each day and do something over nothing, that's when we see that real impact happen. So it's a really special place, as, as a coach and a mentor to be in. I feel really lucky that I get to call this my job too. So,
Well, great. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing.
yeah,
It's great to
absolutely.
hear.
Thanks for having me.